Holy wokeness, Batman!
Coming to paperback and e-readers this April, ISIS, the main event. It's carnage inside of a steel cage as the goddess next door steps in the squared circle against the beast from the falls in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, the main event, this April. Just when comic fans thought the woke crowd had hit rock bottom with Marvel's recent announcement of its new Warriors featuring new heroes like Snowflake and Safe Space, DC Comics manages to find a shovel to dig an even deeper hole for the grave the comic book industry seems to want to dig for itself. Now, in an effort to seem like the woke crowd wants to top your Marvel at DC, DC has announced a new graphic novel in a trailer called Gotham High, which has gotten an overwhelming thumbs down for everyone who has seen it. And most of the people who have seen this trailer for Gotham High, written by your Melissa De La Cruz, have given it a thumbs down because there is nothing related to the Batman character or the Batman lore. And your Melissa De La Cruz, in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, calls it Batman meets Gossip Girl. Now, when you take a critical examination of that statement, it shows how completely clueless your Melissa De La Cruz is as related to Batman, because Batman is a dark character and your Gossip Girl is a bright chick lit type concept. And both of those concepts are completely diametrically opposed to each other, but your Melissa De La Cruz openly admits she has absolutely no clue to anything or any knowledge regarding Batman. And you would think somebody in DC's editorial, when they heard that statement that this woman has no understanding of a knowledge of Batman, Batman's history, Batman's lore, or Batman's mythology, would have immediately rejected this woman for any sort of project, because it's clear to me if you don't know anything about the character, then you are not qualified to write that character. But because the woke editorial at DC Comics looked at Melissa De La Cruz's Ivy League degree from Columbia University, they thought that that alone would allow her the qualification to go out here and write this character. And they also thought because she had several YA novels to her name, that would qualify her. But as somebody who has worked writing fantasy, science fiction, and has an extensive background in comic books and superheroes, when I look at this woman's background and I don't see any sort of understanding as related to the character, that clearly disqualifies her for writing this character. And when I look at the premise that this woman put together, again, Batman meets Gossip Girl, it shows me that this woman is just not the right person to write any sort of Batman story. And when I listen to her statements about Batman as related to a YA line, she shows me, again, that she's somebody I definitely wouldn't want to hire to write a property like Batman, because she says she wanted to do Batman because it was a fun, iconic character she could put her own spin on, and that's just not what any good editor would allow any author to do, because when it comes down to characters like Batman and Superman, they are intellectual properties, and any good editor is going to want to protect those intellectual properties from people who don't meet the standards as related to writing the stories for those characters. So when I hear somebody in editorial allowing this woman to put her own spin on a character like Batman, it clearly shows me there's a serious problem with editorial. And editorial is one of the big problems in the comic book industry, because an abomination like this Gotham High should have never gotten past the junior editors, let alone getting greenlit and approved by a senior editor. Because when I hear this premise about Selina Kyle, Catwoman, being in a love triangle with Jack Napier, the so-called Joker, and Bruce Wayne, who is, a teenage Batman who is supposedly half Asian, that's when I start, if I were an editor, wanting to pull the chain of a Melissa De La Cruz, because it's clear to me that she is not looking to stay true to the source material, and her own spin on the story is not fitting the characters. Now, your Melissa De La Cruz, in an article that I'm reading from Bounding in the Comics, says that she decided that she thought it would be fun if his family was Chinese and was from Hong Kong. And she said that made it feel real. Well, I'm sorry, Melissa De La Cruz. Bruce Wayne is not half Chinese. His family is not from Hong Kong. And while that may feel real for you, that is not who the character of Bruce Wayne is. The character of Bruce Wayne is a white male, and there is no changing that, because that is part of 80 years of his history and his lore. And she decided, because she's half Chinese, she wants to make the character half Chinese because she and her brother have lived in Hong Kong. And when she does that, what she's doing is taking this character, and it's not Bruce Wayne, it's basically a Mary Sue for herself and her brother, and an avatar for them to be able to tell a story about themselves while transposing the Bruce Wayne name on themselves. And the whole story basically is all about her living her fantasy through these characters and creating wish fulfillment through this story. And that's just not good storytelling. No, that's just bad writing overall, because a good writer, they're not going to want to project themselves into a story as an avatar. No, they're going to create a character who is themselves, who has their own problems and has their own flaws, because they understand that a character is somebody who has their own life, and in order for them to overcome the obstacles in the story and go through that character transformation arc, they have to be their own person, and they have to deal with these struggles that they encounter on their own. That's all a part of good storytelling, but it seems like your Melissa De La Cruz didn't learn anything about storytelling from Columbia University, the Ivy League college she came from, based on what she presented here with this Gotham High graphic novel. In this Gotham High graphic novel, she shows us that she hasn't really learned anything about writing, because she's going to sit here, and instead of her doing what good writers do, and in going out and doing research on the character, doing research on the history, doing research on the lore, and respecting what previous writers wrote before on the character, she's going to just throw all of that away and then create her own version of Bruce Wayne and her own version of the Batman lore, all about promoting her Asian identity politics and disregarding everything that came before her. And that, again, shows absolutely a complete disrespect of the character and shows how arrogant this woman is, because no writer out here would be allowed to get away with this if you had good editors in charge. Unfortunately, there haven't been good editors in charge at places at DC Comics and Marvel Comics for years to pull the chain of these writers and let them know that their concepts just are not meeting the standards that we have for the character. She says he's still Bruce Wayne, but he's not Bruce Wayne, because Bruce Wayne is not half Asian. He does not come from Hong Kong, and his character is not Chinese. So you are trying to put concepts on a character that were never there, just like she's trying to project concepts on characters like the Joker, saying that he's not a villain, and saying things like Alfred is a homosexual. None of this stuff was ever presented in any Batman comic book, and none of this stuff was ever presented in any Batman product or any Batman concept. And the big problem, again, here with this Gotham High is not this writer. The biggest problem with this Gotham High concept is the fact that you have Editorial that allowed this woman to come in and write this kind of story, all because of her pedigree and her status as a New York Times best-selling author. And that should never be allowed by any editor, because the character is supposed to come first when there is a good editor in charge. When there's a good editor in charge, he or she is going to put the character first, and they're going to let the writer know it doesn't matter about your pedigree or your education or your credits as a writer. Your qualifications for writing this character have to do with your background knowledge of the character, because you can't write what you don't know, and two, you have to come in showing me that you have a background as related to writing similar stories. And when I look at this woman's background as a YA author, yes, she does know how to write YA, but it's clear to me she does not know how to write comics, because in order to write comics, whether it be a comic strip or a comic book or a graphic novel, you have to come into that character looking to make that character first, and you have to come into that character looking to add to the existing mythology and looking to add to the existing lore. And what your DC Comics is trying to do in trying to reach people with these YA novels, type graphic novels, is destined to fail, just like its Minx line failed back in the mid to early 2000s, because they're not looking to sell comics to readers. They're looking to pander to audiences. And when you go out here and you look to pander to audiences, what happens is you're not going to win those audiences over, because you're coming from a position of weakness. And this Gotham High graphic novel comes from a position of weakness, because your Melissa De La Cruz is looking to pander to the woke crowd and trying to get brownie points with them, instead of trying to tell us a great Batman story. Because when you go out here and you're looking to pander to people, you're coming from that position of weakness. And when you come from a position of weakness, people don't really respect the work that you're doing. And the reason why they don't respect the work that you're doing is because you show no respect for the history of a character, the lore of a character, or the mythology of a character. And because you show no respect for the character, that's why readers don't respect your work. And that's the problem with Melissa De La Cruz's Gotham High, is that it does not respect the source material the same way your Pitoff did not respect the source material back in 2004 with Birds of Prey, and the same way in 2005 that they did not respect, not Birds of Prey, was Catwoman, but Birds of Prey in 2005, and both of those concepts completely flopped. And most recently, the Birds of Prey, The Emancipation of Harley Quinn, flopped for the same reason. Again, looking to pander to the woke crowd by giving them these so-called brand new takes on characters, but disrespecting everything that came before it. Now, if your Melissa De La Cruz wanted to do a graphic novel, then she should have taken this concept and used all new original characters. There was no need to take Bruce Wayne and make him into a Mary Sue Asian character, or make the Joker into some so-called good guy and have Selena Kyle in a love triangle with them. No, what you do is you make brand new original characters, and you make your story to try to sell to the woke crowd. Unfortunately, the big problem with the woke crowd is most of them are extremely insecure, and they know that their concepts are weak. So what they try to do is transpose and project it onto a more popular character in the hopes of getting attention. But all they get is attention on the internet, where you have people on social media practically roasting their bad concepts. And what they do is wind up costing a lot of these companies like AT&T and Warner Brothers a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of bad press, and they lead to a big L on the record and reputation of a writer like a Melissa De La Cruz, who was writing something, again, that she's clearly not qualified to write, because the first rule at Columbia University she probably would have learned is you, one, write what you know, and two, you write what you have researched. And this is something she hasn't clearly done, even though she's gotten a degree in this, and something I know how to do, because before I wrote a book like the Spinsterella in 2015 about a black goth, I didn't come in trying to write based on just what I knew. I also came in and did hours of research, and when I finished the trilogy, I practically had watched thousands of hours of goth videos and read thousands of goth websites in order to be able to write a story that would be something true to the source material and true to the spirit of the subculture. I showed respect for the goth scene. Unfortunately, Melissa De La Cruz showed no respect for Batman, and that's the difference between a good writer and a bad writer. A good writer is going to show respect for the material and show respect for what the material by going out here and doing research, because they want people to get a better understanding of the character, a better understanding of the story, a better understanding of the subject matter they're writing about, and they want to be able to present that material so people can get a better understanding of what they've read, because people just don't read to be entertained, they read to learn, and there's nothing people can learn about Batman from this Gotham High. This Gotham High is an absolutely abomination to the Batman lore, the same way Petoff's Catwoman was an abomination, the same way the Birds of Prey TV show was an abomination, and the same way Birds of Prey, The Emancipation of Harley Quinn was an abomination. And all of these attempts to try to pander to the woke crowd, they don't really help DC or Marvel reach new readers in an era where the industry has seen steep declines, because what happens is, again, when you pander, you come from a position of weakness, you present an extremely weak product, and when you present an extremely weak product to readers, they have no reason to care about your books. Now, I know a YA group of graphic novels could sell in bookstores, but the problem is, just like the Minx line in 2004, 2007 or so, the DC Comics is going about things the wrong way, trying to pander to girls to try to get them to read comics, not understanding that girls don't read comics because they are more analytic, they tend to think a completely different way, and boys are more visual, so they're more interested in graphic novels. So you're trying to sell girls a product that they just don't want. So I know graphic novels would be able to be sold, but you have to give people these characters as they are. People want a Batman story that features Batman. They want a Superman story that features Superman. They want stories that are true to the source material. Yes, you can take fresh takes on those characters, but you have to stay true to their source material and their historic roots. And this is something that is causing these graphic novels to really falter and fall apart and never really reach the audience or actualize their potential, because you have DC Editorial, which does not have any standards or set any standards and will not check the woke crowd. And sadly, because they won't check the woke crowd, they wind up making books like Gotham High, which make them go broke. And when these books go broke, they dig an even further and deeper hole for the comic book industry. Now, if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Hayes series, and the Spinsterella trilogy, you will find that all of these books are great reading for young adults, teens, and tweens, and all of those books can be found on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle formats, Smashwords, and the iBookstore. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, the Beauty Myth. Learn the beauty secrets of the goddess next door in this action-packed Isis series adventure. Get Isis, the Beauty Myth at online booksellers everywhere today.